Hey guys, it's KiKi. So I wanted to come on here real quick and kind of discuss homesteading with you. Living off the grid, kind of being out of the way of society's norms. So why homestead? How do you homestead? What is homesteading? And while it's not technically homelessness, I like the homesteading idea because it is non-traditional, and here again I'm non-traditional. So if you want to hear about homesteading, what it is, how to do it, how to survive off the grid, then stay tuned. Hey guys, so we are in 2019. I just figured I'd say Happy New Year to everyone. I have been so delayed with my video. But anyway, anywho, we are discussing homesteading and kind of living off the grid today. So I just want to give you a couple of little facts about Charlotte, NC, which is where I am. So one major factoid was between 2004 and 2014, Charlotte had 888,000 new residents. So, of course, with such a fast growth, it contributed to a large amount of the homeless citizens. So, in 2018, there was a study that found 43% of people are cost burdened, meaning they pay more than 30% of income on housing. Crazy. Eviction filings were more than 29,000 in 2018. 39% of homeless people that were polled said finding affordable housing was a barrier. 22% said lack of employment was a barrier. And so as of the report, there were fewer permanent beds for homeless people and rising costs that outpace the income increases. So on January 31st, and I think this is like an every year thing, kind of a census of the homeless. Apparently they go around on the 31st to do a count of homeless people that are actually in the streets. And so in 2018, there were 1,700 homeless that were on the street that particular night that they counted. And that was a 13% increase just from 2017. Okay? So that's crazy. So just knowing like little facts like that, and I'm sure where everyone else is, there's crazy facts too. Of course, people are kind of scrambling and reaching for other alternatives to living where it's not so insane and you can afford to live and you can breathe and you can actually enjoy life and enjoy your family and your friends and do things that you want to do and not feel like all you do is get up, go to work, and that's it. You can't spend money because there's no residual income. There's nothing left over once you pay your bills. You're grumpy, your spouse is grumpy, you make your kids grumpy, and like the whole situation. And then you add on top of that homelessness to a situation like that, and it's just insanity. So I just wanted to kind of share that right off the top because it kind of lays the foundation of why one would even consider an alternative lifestyle to the wonderful matrix that's already set up for us that we should be happy that we're part of, cog on the wheel of life, as it were. So I just want to kind of talk about homesteading and kind of living off the grid today. Okay, so homesteading is defined as a lifestyle of self-sufficiency. It's characterized by subsistence agriculture, home preservation of food. It may also involve the small-scale production of textiles, clothing, and craft work for household use or sale. It's pursued in different ways around the world and in different historical eras. Homesteading is generally differentiated from rural, village, or commune living by isolation, either socially or physically, of the homestead. So I don't know about anyone else, but when I think of homestead, I kind of think of Amish. And I know that's a way of life, and I know that's like they have religion and everything built into that, and homesteading obviously doesn't. But it's kind of the whole thing about homesteading, from what I understand, is it's a minimalist attitude, a minimalist mindset. And you really kind of have to change your whole way of thinking. And it's kind of like the older you are and the longer you've lived in the matrix, the harder it'll be to kind of free your mind of that thinking. Even though, you scramble and you want something different. I mean, you've been trained from going to school. Everything taught you to survive in the matrix. And when you want to get out of the matrix, it's kind of like a whole new world. Literally. I mean, it's a whole new world for you. So that's what homesteading is. And obviously the idea of homesteading isn't new. It's kind of, now they've brought it about and it's kind of new aged or whatever. But since the United States has it dating back to 1862, and today's homesteaders are doing the same things but kind of differently, adapting to the current times. Okay, so during my research, I ran across a website, and of course, like always, I will link it in the description. And it actually gave what it said was 13 cities and states that participate in homesteading, where the government provides you land for homesteading. However, the last two are kind of not really. So what I'm saying is there are 11 on this list, and each is different. Each state is different. Each city, the way they do things are different. So the website kind of breaks it down and gives you an explanation of what's required in order to obtain the land, what you have to do, and all the little rules, nuances that go along with it. So like I said, I will link the description below so you can go for yourself and read it if you're interested. But number 1 is Lincoln, Kansas. Number 2 is Marquette, Kansas. Number 3 is New Richland, Minnesota. Number 4 is Mankato, Kansas. Number 5 is Osborne, Kansas. Number 6 is Plainville, Kansas. Number 7 is Curtis, Nebraska. Number 8 is Elwood, Nebraska. Number 9 is Loop City, Nebraska. 10 is Marne, Iowa. And 11 is Manila, Iowa. Probably about how exciting it is. Anyway, they listed Cahoga. I'm so sorry. I know I am like butchering that. Natural park in Ohio. It's not free land, but it's cheap for farmers if you farm. And then they listed the real estate market. I don't know if they were just grasping at straws by the end, but they have that listed. So admittedly, the idea of free land in order to build a life for yourself and your family sounds pretty great, which I think it does anyway. But if you don't already know, Kansas is like the most boring state to drive through. I think it might be the most boring state, period. But driving through Kansas is insane. I've had to drive it a couple of occasions and go through the whole entire state, traveling to Colorado, and it was nothing but flatlands, little towns here and there. I guess these people who took advantage of homesteading and got them some free land, and windmills. And they're actually those little things that go rolling by. God, I forgot what those are called. Those little things that go rolling by in cartoons and stuff. I had never ever seen them. I didn't even think they existed. And the first one I saw, Tumbleweed, that's what it is. Tumbleweed. I had never seen tumbleweed until I drove through Kansas. I mean, you need about 18 energy drinks to get through that state. Drive through in the daytime, don't go when you sleep. But anyway, in driving through, because the land is so flat, I was able to kind of see the little towns. But obviously I didn't know about the homesteading land that the state provides for free, and just based on the little stipulations that you have to follow. So I understand why they're like little towns, and you can kind of see, there'll be like a church, obviously. I think that's probably like one of the first things they build, and a few little houses and stuff. You see those off, but you don't drive through. Now, the bigger ones, the bigger cities, I guess you actually are going to drive through. So they'll have a gas station and a few stores or whatever. But for the most part, when you're driving through, at least the highway that I was on, you're just kind of seeing it off in the distance. So it's kind of weird. Kansas is definitely a strange place, full of flat plains and the occasional small town. So that was just something to consider if Kansas interests you. And again, I'll put the link below. But like I said, each city has its own stipulations and rules, and what you have to take part of to be in the lifestyle of homesteading. But all in all, if you don't mind moving to one of the listed city states, you get free land and build upon it and do what you want, and you will really be off the grid, especially in Kansas. So one of the things I was kind of curious is to kind of hear what specifically people were saying as to what made them choose the homesteading lifestyle and kind of being off the grid. And just looking at some YouTube videos and some YouTube creators, I kind of got a sense of how people were kind of feeling, and it was pretty much a consensus. Even though everybody's situation was different, for the most part, everyone had kind of like the same feeling about it, which drove them to eventually walk away from their homes and cities and the life that they knew, for this essentially farm type life, which is a huge like, I give so much props to farmers, because I could never ever do it. Well, I won't say never ever, but I would have to farm like, I don't know, like 2 chickens, a llama or something. I just don't see that lifestyle being for me. But I do want an alternative to the Matrix. So it's kind of like, what do you do? But it seems like most people wanted more financial freedom, which you have more financial freedom because you're living more of a minimalist lifestyle. It's not like you have financial freedom and you're out, buying up everything, because that defeats the whole purpose and goes against the whole lifestyle of the homesteading and the whole mentality. So your financial freedom is really more about you actually taking vacations with your family, spending time with your family, and enjoying the time that you would have been crawled up in the bed watching TV, like bored with life, and you hate everybody because and in like 8 hours you got to go back to work and do it all again. So people said that they had a good feeling to be self-sufficient, and I totally get that. I'm very, very self-sufficient myself, just in general. If I could just do everything myself, I would. I am like DIYer to the core. But some things you just can't do yourself, and you have to enlist the help of others or pay others or whatever the case is. But I'm definitely for that self-sufficiency and not relying upon other people for your food and your clothes and everything. So one YouTuber specifically, Homesteading Ways is the creator's channel. She said she didn't like the city what the city was becoming. So that was one of the reasons why. And the recession in 2008, and because she had a large family, she was working on, I guess, food preservation and kind of cutting back and cutting corners and stuff for the family during the recession. And it became kind of like a lifestyle for her. And she realized that her stepping stone was the food, and food preservation kind of led her. She said a simpler life. She did say self-sufficient. And then just choosing not to eat foods out of a box with chemicals. That's just huge, you know? I want a garden. I would love, love, love a garden. If nothing else, a garden. I kind of do not really have a green thumb, but I feel like with the proper tutelage, I too could have a nice box garden and grow my own veggies and enjoy. And also, so her last thing was homeschooling, which I'm not even going to get into the politics of the United States education system, so forth and so on. But, like, you know, with the current state of the political agendas, the state of the country, poisonous franken foods, you know, the extreme high cost of living, being overworked, underpaid, it's no wonder that Americans want and crave this better existence. And then enter homesteading. So YouTube creator Roots and Refuge farm. And both of these YouTube creators, I again will link in the description so you can go check them out. She did an amazing job of a list of ways to make income within your farm, your homesteading farm. And she did a really, really good job. It was really good. So I definitely encourage people to go and check it out. So I'm just going to I just took notes and was jotting down, you know, what she was saying and different ideas. And so she said, first of all, you need to save and be resourceful. And that this homesteading lifestyle requires a whole mindset change, you know, which I mentioned earlier. And she said that you should use whatever animals you have to produce not only for you and your family, but produce enough to kind of make a living as well. So she suggested that you sell your extra eggs as a business, or you can sell hatchling eggs. And she went into a whole thing about that too. She said duck eggs you get 2 times as much for duck eggs. Turkey eggs are best for hatching, and quail are good for both the hatchlings and actually eating them. So she said using an incubator and hatching eggs is a good source of income, dealing with the hatchling eggs. She said selling baby goats, because apparently when you have a goat family for milk, goats can't produce until they've had children, something along those lines. It's terrible. Anyway, you get a lot of baby goats. So she said selling the baby goats is good. Selling raw goat milk is good. And if you have a good lineage, studying for the goats is good as well. Breeding dogs, but she said that's kind of only suggested if you really are going to take the time and do it properly. She said something that was really good: starter plants, and it's good to have a different variety. So if you go to a farmer's market or a nursery and you're selling your starter plants, it's good to have a variety of ones that aren't popular, obviously. She said selling vegetables, like weekly boxes. And I had heard of this even before doing the research, but I hadn't participated in it, and I really, really wanted to. So the concept is, for those who don't know, the concept is farmers, all have different vegetables and fruits and things like that on their farms. So for them to make the money and for them to actually use the animals and the garden and everything within their farm, the excess becomes meal boxes. And so they put these boxes together. So if they grow corn and cucumbers and cabbage and whatever, and they have an abundance of that, you'll get this weekly box with that in it. If it's a different season or something else, they're growing different things, you'll get a different box with different stuff in it. And that's how they get their money. And I think that was really good, because I feel like that is like the OG version of those new boxes that they ship you down to cook your meals. I feel like that's the healthiest bottom denominator. The rawest form, the purest form of one of those box meals, because you have all your vegetables and everything together there. You plan your meals based on this box of food that you get for the farmers. I just thought it was a really cool idea, and I actually want to participate myself. But there are only particular farms that participate, but in this version, we are the homesteaders, and that's a good way to make money, is to put your vegetables that you're actually growing in your garden together for weekly boxes for the farmers markets. And so she said your kitchen is a big asset for you. Homemade baked goods are really popular. And she said also, if you have different kind of eggs to use, you can kind of use that as your niche and say, we use, fresh goose eggs in our baked goods, or we are gluten-free or paleo or whatever, and you kind of get a niche. But everything that she is saying is based on what you already have going on in your farm or your land, or what's going on with you, so that you're not out trying to buy new things to try to do stuff. She did mention that kind of later. She mentioned tilling services. So if you had to get a tiller for your own property, she suggested that you rent that service out and say, I can till you, whatever and whatever for someone else, and you make an income doing that. So that was pretty good. She said farm sitting, which is something I never really heard of, but other farmers go out of town. They still need, the farm needs to be tended to. And if you're good at tending to farm and you feel like you want to take the responsibility of being responsible for their animals and making sure they stay healthy and whatever for the amount of time that they're gone on their vacation, that's something to do. Compost apparently is a big thing. And then the one that's my favorite, near and dear to my heart, is making crafts. So basically she had about 13 things on the list, and I thought they were really good. Like I said, she did an amazing job, and she broke down each of them. Her video was really cool. She went to the different locations on her farm and kind of explained stuff. So it was really good. I definitely suggest watching it on your own. So kind of next up, I want to talk about solar power. That's kind of your off-the-grid electricity source. If you're anything like me, you know about as much as solar power is the word solar and power. Don't know too much about solar power as a means for a whole home. Now, I did look into getting a solar panel for the car, and I still am very much so interested in doing that so that there's electricity in the car. But just a little factoid for you. A 2,000 square foot home would use solar energy of about 4,000 watts, which would mean you would need between 12 and 18 solar panels. So from what I saw in my research, the solar panels run about $130-$140 up, and they usually come with a whole kit, and you just follow the instructions. I was told that it's really easy. They made it really user friendly. So as far as solar power for your whole home, I don't know about that. That wasn't something I really delved into, but that definitely goes into the homesteading, living off the grid lifestyle. So I definitely wanted to include that. Okay, so for those interested in actually starting up homesteading, you don't have much money, apparently it can be done pretty cheap. There's a website, therealfarmhouse.com. I will link that below as well. And she gave 10 starter tips. She said that they had about $187 to their name when they started homesteading, and they still were able to do it. Number 1, simplify your life. Again, remember, homesteading is a whole new mindset, and a lot of it has to do with living frugally. Make homesteading friends, obviously. Other people that have been there and done that can help you. 3, start gardening. Yay. 4, preserve what you grow and what you gather. 5, learn to sew. That sounds easy to say, but not everyone can sew, and not everyone feels like learning to sew, but it's maybe just someone in your household learned to sew. I enjoy sewing, so but it's not something everyone's interested in. But this article was actually written by the wife of the farmer, so is coming from her perspective. Number 6, get starts from other people, and basically she's saying starter plans, animals, etc. Plan ahead is number 7. Number 8 is cheap chickens. She did a breakdown saying that she got like 10 to 18 chicks for $10 or something like that, and kept them in the house in the laundry room until they got too big, and then they made like a scrap chicken coop in the back for them after that. And number 9 is start a compost pile. She says it's pretty hard to mess up. It's just compost. And number 10, quit buying things that you can't afford. Here again, minimalist lifestyle is what homesteading is about. I feel like as a homeless individual, you're already forced into the minimalist lifestyle. I feel like being part of the homeless community is kind of a starting point for different directions. And if you take the time to learn new things, take the time to figure things out, kind of step away from your situation more, and be more of the enlightened homeless individuals, and kind of think about things, it really is like a curse and a blessing, because you do have time to step away without all of the responsibilities that you normally have and all the stresses of life like weighing on you. This is a time to reflect when you're alone in your car, when you're in your tent, wherever you are. Reflect about your life, things you can change, how you can better yourself. And if you want to just take a whole new direction and scrap everything you did before and say, this didn't work, I wasn't happy anyway, I feel like homelessness is kind of a springboard to something greater if you take the time and learn through the situation. So that's going to do it for us today, guys, on homesteading, living off the grid. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And for my subscribers, thank you for subscribing. I would forward to many more. I'm hoping 2019 I can like bust on the scene with good knowledge and information for all, because that is definitely one of the main goals for the channel. I want everyone to kind of learn what's going on and open their minds up about homelessness. So again, if this video helped you at all, if you like the video, please comment, like, subscribe. Also, if you know another alternative to living in the Matrix, please share. Homesteading might not be for everyone, but the Matrix isn't either. So thanks again. That's all for now, guys. I'm KiKi, and that's what's really going on in the streets. Remember, be the change you want to see in the world. I love you guys. Go forth in love and light. Namaste.